For this presentation, I'm considering three sources from church bodies in the early 19th century. Two of them are from the Presbyterian Church USA. They're called A Narrative of the State of Religion, and these are from the years 1813 and 1815. The third source is the Minutes of the General Convention of Vermont, and this is from the year 1814, so right in the middle. This is a convention that included Presbyterians and Congregationalists. And some takeaways are growth in the movement, even though there's some places where this isn't seen, and also uh, acknowledgement of more work to be done and the historical context of these meetings. In the first narrative from 1813, there's an encouraging tone of widespread revival in the denomination and overall in the church, even though some areas are not experiencing this. And in all these documents, the language of revival is prevalent. And it makes sense because this is in the context of the Second Great Awakening. And alongside this language of revival is also the language of Scripture. Scripture emanates from these documents, and it's clear they are people of the Word. And the document, it's kind of developing the idea of revival. It talks about being like Pentecost, like from Acts 2. It also talks about colleges being affected, including Yale is one example that's given. And it's important also to see this in the framework of the War of 1812. So there's an upheaval in the society. That's great. And this is something that is in the background of everything that is talked about here. And it makes sense that the people would be turning to God during a time like this, because that's what happens many times during these times of upheaval. The second document from 1814, the General Convention, really emphasizes the unity of church bodies, Congregationalists, Presbyterians, all coming together and felt like they could be united under common essential beliefs. The main point here is not revivals, even though it's in the background, but the main point here is the Sabbath. The Sabbath was an important doctrine during the time and even to today. And the Sabbath was a day for worship, public and private, for rest, but not recreation. And the main issue here is that the mail being delivered on the Sabbath. So they were trying to lobby their congressman to stop the delivery of mail and the reading of mail on Sundays. This eventually happened in 1912 and is a great testament to the heritage of our Christian nation, if you might call it that, or that the church being a great influence on our culture at least. The final document, the third document, is another narrative from 1815, and the emphasis here, I would say, would be the pangs of war, even though we could still say a dual emphasis of the revival. Here's a quote from it. It says, "The judgments of pestilence and war have carried their desolations over a large portion of our land." Again, it's still hopeful about the revivals. It, in exquisite language, really talks about how the revivals are continuing and growing. It talks about how congregations are being formed, congregations are being strengthened, Bible societies, prayer societies are being formed and growing. It talks about the colleges being affected. It talks about Dartmouth, Yale again. It talks about Princeton sending out ministers to be ministers of the revival. And this is all has a very big emphasis on the revivals of the time. So all of these documents are important in showing how the church responded to awakening movements and also great upheaval, wars, pestilence, as it says, during the early years of the 19th century. Thank you.